Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to all of you here today to the GACS and MitKat Knowledge session on COVID-19, the all-pervasive impact and way forward. We have with us today Colonel Samrendra Kumar, founder MitKat Advisory Services, or SAM as he is better known. He's a very well-known and a respected speaker on geopolitics and very well-known and reputed security and risk consultant as well. He will be analyzing the health, economic, and social impact of the coronavirus and the emergence of a new low-touch economy, which has been shaped by, recent consumer habits and regulation. Despite the many challenges, India has tackled the situation very well. But in the new business order, probably corporate security, resiliency, and crisis management functions will gain in stature. But I will hand over to Colonel Sam now, who with his expertise will give us his insights on the same as he discusses the economic impact and outlook, recession, and the recovery. This discussion is going to be followed by a panel discussion on the same. We have some very prestigious panel of experts with us here from various fields who will give us a very comprehensive look at the current scenario, impact, and the way forward. All right, so with this, I hand over to you, Colonel Sam.
So good afternoon, everyone. Hima, can you hear me? Can we have the full screen? Can we have the full screen? Slideshow mode. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sam and very warm welcome. Thank you for coming out in full strength on a Tuesday afternoon. And I shall, over the next 30 minutes, cover the impact of COVID-19 and what's the way forward. Initially, it will be more of a monologue for about 30 minutes, and then I'll be joined by more knowledgeable people to decode, how to get over the whole thing. So next. So briefly, I'll cover three aspects. Firstly, the impact of COVID-19 on public health, economy, and geopolitics. And second is the low-touch economy. So we will be moving towards a low-touch or contactless economy. Contactless technologies and many other things will gain in stature. So that's here to stay. And it will lead to many changes in consumer behavior and business models. And finally, what's the impact on India? And just a quick disclaimer, the views are not mine, they're of experts. So I'm no expert on this subject. I have collated the views and done some research on it. So very quickly, the world we live in, and it may be repetition for some of you who have earlier heard me. So please bear with me. The world in which we live in, the pace of change and tech-enabled disruption is accelerating exponentially. There is major fundamental shift. Hello? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, you are completely audible, Colonel Sam.
So Colonel Prabhakar is calling me. So any particular? Okay, fine. So there is a shift in business models from pipes to platforms. And the old traditional business models, the Marriotts are giving way to Airbnb, and Fords and Toyotas are giving way to Ubers and Olas, and we have Amazons and all. So this is a completely new paradigm in business where you don't have the multiple stages of making a product, then packaging it, marketing it, having a retail inventory. This new model just supposes you have a very, very kind of a powerful platform, often AI assisted. So the new age business models are largely what we call asset light, data heavy, and algorithmically inspired. So more and more you see these business models, and the sharp division between the supplier and the consumer, that is diminishing. Even before COVID-19, the world growth was slow and unequal, and there were protests in large part of the country, and that may return. That's my fear, that it may return. And COVID-19, finally, it gave twin shocks in terms of health impact and economic dislocation. And we shall cover some of these themes today. As you are aware, COVID-19 originated in Wuhan, China, around the end of the century, around the end of last year. And on 12th March, WHO declared it as a global pandemic. Virus has already infected more than 3.5 million people, and there have been more than 250,000 deaths. And then varying strategies have been adopted by various countries. So there is the Taiwanese model, the Korean model, the Chinese model of lockdowns, and India also followed. Some people tried herd immunity. And then WHO, the UN agency responsible for world public health, countries, states, districts, communities, all have issued various guidelines. US is leading the world in this also with 1.2 million infections and just under 70,000 deaths as of this morning. And Europe has been badly hit. Italy, Spain, France, UK. I mean, other than that, Russia, Turkey, Iran have been hit. Brazil is also showing a steep rise in numbers in some parts of Africa. And then while that is happening, curve is flattening. Italy and all, they're probably past their worst. And some parts of Asia like Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and opening. Half of US states have also started opening in some form or the other. You can see on the right side, nice picture. This is from yesterday's television, how New Yorkers are adhering to social distance norms. Moving to the next one. South Asia is home to 2 out of 9 human beings, a region comprising Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Maldives. So we are 2 out of every 9 human beings. About 22% of world population lives here. And the economies are poor, health systems are fragile here. So leaders of this part of the world, they were fully aware of the fact that we are living in, we do not have much wherewithal. So they went in for early lockdowns, and those results have kind of yielded results, those efforts. So we have had less than 80,000 infections across these 8 countries, and about half of that is in India, and just over 2,000 deaths, which is just little more than 0.1 per million. And compare that to about 657 per million in Belgium, and then more than 400 in Spain and Italy, and about 186 in US. Nepal and Bhutan have almost 0 deaths. Maldives are just 1. Afghanistan is showing some signs of worry because a lot of people from Iran are coming in. You know, Iran was badly hit, as you'll be aware, and a lot of people have migrated. So some recent testing in Kabul has shown some worrying results. Now, why South Asia has done well? It could also be because of sun, temperature, and humidity impacting the virus. And this is no longer a speculation. There's a very senior US official, Undersecretary for Science and Technology at Department of Homeland Security. During his coronavirus task force meeting at the White House, he has stated this, that sun and ultraviolet rays kill the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus, and temperature and humidity impact the stability of the virus. It could also be because the South Asia has got high infant mortality, so only the fittest children survive. And it could also be because of the bad conditions, hygienic conditions we live in, the immunity is inherently high. Some people call a BCG angle, and death rates can be low because the population is relatively young compared to Italy and all, where average population maybe, or Japan, which is around 44. We are well under 30, the median age. So maybe because of young population. Now coming to India. India is about 1 in every 6 human beings lives in India, over 1.3 billion people, and our healthcare is still very fragile. We had only 0.5 critical care beds for 1,000 people, and compare this with South Korea, which is about 12.3 per 1,000 people, almost 25 times of what we have in India. So we have so far looks like handled the crisis well. So from yesterday to today, the figures have kind of shown a little bit of, a reverse trend. And so essentially 3-part strategy, most of the nations followed. The one is lockdown, that will stop the transmission of virus. So you actually artificially close the economy. And then you provide social security because many people are thrown out of job, and people at the bottom of the pyramid are the worst hit. And then finally, once that is done and the curve is flattened and you start getting corona under control, then you think about economic recovery. So India is already in lockdown 3.0, and then we are following a dynamic strategy to mitigate the COVID-19 and to reopen the economy in a phased manner. And today's statistics, if you see, we have more than 46,000 total cases, and with about more than 1,500 casualties. This is as of this morning. And there is no community transmission as per our health minister. So there have been some unintended gains. Pollution has gone down, and road accidents, which used to kill about 140,000 people in a year, that is down. Carnage in crude has been good for Indian economy, and it will be bad for oil exporting economies and good for oil importing economies like India, China, Japan, etc. Relocation of global supply chains can benefit India. As business moves out of China, India has to position itself well. It will not come on its own. If you look at the statistics, bulk of the business has either gone to Taiwan or Vietnam. These have been the 2 big beneficiaries. but we can attract this in some of the things like pharma, specialty chemicals and all. And we have generated huge amount of global goodwill, something popularly called as hydroxychloroquine diplomacy. We have sent it to 97 countries and paracetamol to over 103 countries. Indian Army has, supported Maldives, Kuwait. So there is a whole lot of defense diplomacy and other diplomacy going on. Next, if we look at the only definitive treatment to corona is going to be a vaccine and some high-powered, double-blind, randomized controlled trials of remdesivir. So this is a medicine by Gilead, which was for earlier viruses. So that has shown some promising results. It has found some weakness in the virus. So recovery has been reduced over a 6-week trial. Recovery has been reduced from 15 to 11 days, and fatality from 11 to 8%. So some promise that is showing, and more than that, about 100 other vaccines are in trial, and from Moderna to Serum Institute in India, Oxford University is doing some pioneering work. There are other major pharmas which are doing. And yesterday, as of yesterday evening, there was yesterday evening India time, there was a EU-led global fundraise for vaccine research, and about $8 billion has been pledged. Now there were two notable absentees: the big boys, the US and China. They have been missing. The vaccine, by most estimates, is unlikely before 2021, but the optimistic president of USA feels it can come by December, though his medical advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci, feels that in best case scenario, it will come by January 2021 with some risk. Now, just making the vaccine is not good enough. There is huge amount of logistics involved. So we move to the next one. Coronavirus has also led to severe economic dislocation. This is the worst crisis since the Great Depression. 1 decade of growth has been wiped out in just 3 months. World economy will shrink by 3% as per IMF in 2020. US and Eurozone are down 5% and 3.8% respectively in Q1. China GDP in Q1 was down minus 6.8%. Its exports at its peak were down by about 17%. Manufacturing has been hit badly, and because of its linkages to global supply chain, there have been disruptions. The people at the bottom of the pyramid have been the worst hit, and protests may return. And as I will cover why I feel so. Next. The world that we live in is very, very integrated. So technology has brought us together, but politics is driving us apart. Nationalism, populism, majoritarianism is on the rise. Cooperation among nations is waning. Even on an issue like, vaccine, they're not able to come together. So global leadership is lacking. Trade wars are common, and major geopolitical alignments are underway, realignments. Some of the institutions like World Health Organization, they're under stress. US president has criticized WTO also. But one of the most defining trends is that China has, beginning 2019, China has decided and declared openly its intention to build parallel internet technology systems and protocols. So this will effectively divide the cyber world, the internet, into two. It's called popularly Splinternet. China has also been taking aggressive actions in South China Sea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, etc. Another big trend can be that Asia's surge. So if we look at history, Asia was always a preeminent power till about 17th century. So from 3500 BC to 1700 AD, over 5,000 years, Asia was more than 50% of world GDP. So Asia's surge, which began with Japan's post-war economic miracle and China assuming leadership at the turn of the century, it just represents a return to what was always a historical norm, that Asia is the big power. And in 2020, these are pre-COVID data, and so Asia GDP was expected to be about 50% of global GDP in PPP terms, and in another 10 years in absolute terms. So China, Japan, India, and Indonesia will be among the world's top 6 economies. So Asia has also coped with the virus better, and global CG is likely to shift to Asia. Next. Okay. Some other trends are also very, very evident. Firstly, when the world was confronted with this crisis, no private sector, nobody else, this crisis was just too big. So it had to fall back on the nation states. So the primacy of the state is established. And one of the historical trends has been whenever the state becomes powerful, it is loath to give away that power, even after the crisis is gone. So state will amass a lot of data about citizens, even democracies and all. whole lot of new apps are coming to control corona, but it will lead to lots and lots of data collection. So it has led to weakening of Europe. When Europe was confronted with a crisis, in the borderless Europe, all the borders came up again. Cracks became very, very evident. When Italy wanted help, the nations failed. European Union president was on record to say that in our moment of crisis, she almost apologized to Italy. So, the next trend is that carnage in crude will impact the oil economies. The OPEC countries, Russia, US, they all will be impacted by a drop in the price of the oil, while the oil importing countries like India, China, Japan, Germany, etc., Korea, they will benefit. There could be reconfiguration of global supply chains, and because of this unequal inequality across the globe, that will get further accentuated. So protests may return. So next part, let's look at the impact of the business, impact of coronavirus on various businesses. So the screen on the left part of the screen is positive towards catastrophic, and on the right side, the snake looking thing, that is in the reverse order. So the two are kind of little different. So if we just look at it, varying industries have been impacted differently. E-commerce, like the impact has been little positive. So what people are doing, they're boosting supply to meet demand surge. On some industry, it has been mildly negative, like consumer goods. So they have to somehow survive the crisis and prepare, hoping for a swing back to normal. On oil and gas and some other industries, it has been severe. So they have to somehow survive this and then hope for a slow recovery. And on some of them, like tourism and all, it has been simply catastrophic. And then some parts of it, may just go bankrupt. One or two aviation companies have already gone bankrupt. Next. Some rules or policies will be forced top down. Like there will be restriction on the number of people who can gather. India has promulgated its regulations, and this will be a very normal thing over next few years. There'll be travel restrictions between countries, to come to countries, and then there will be hygiene requirements. People may require an immunity certificate or immunity passport for you to come. And there will be restrictions on, you can't interact with people above 65 years of age. And some of these new habits and behaviors may stick. For example, work from home and virtual conferences. Now, over 1 month, we realize all of us have become expert in virtual conferencing. There'll be, mixed work-life balance, telemedicine, e-commerce, and all will gain ground. And you please expect many aftershocks. There will be many second-order effects. There will be mass bankruptcies, bailouts, turbulences, etc. Next, there will be gradual shifts in consumer behavior. And soon they will they will become, over a period of time, they will become like a new behavior itself. So for example, you have in these days, indoor delivery robots may become popular. You have robots screening patients. This picture is of India. So in Bangalore, in these cities, you have robots now screening patients. You could have a Formula One sports with real drivers, but probably empty stadiums. And similarly, geopolitics, it will lead to closed borders, protectionism. Actually, UK government and tech companies are working on an immunity passport. There will be major supply chain disruptions, and contactless or no-touch economy will gain ground. So we have some technology expert, Mr. Akshay Markande. So during the panel discussion, we'll take it up. Trust deficit. There'll be general trust deficit. Banks will not trust their borrowers. Companies will not trust their suppliers. There'll be damaged trust in the hygiene of people and products. Consumers and organizations will be very, very careful about the products they use. They would require a formal proof of hygiene in the current health status. There could be new retail and hospitality formats, and there could be contact-free deliveries. Drones, robots can start using it, and there'll be more drop-offs. Okay, work from home will become more, and home will adopt a new meaning. Balancing work life will become very, very important, and companies may reduce office space and infrastructure. And we have experts here who are, veterans in corporate real estate, two of them with over 2 decades of experience. So we will, learn from them what is the actual impact. And this will also require new work policies and new insurances. So there will be unprecedented levels of global unemployment. तो अभी क्या होता है, एक जगह आपको नौकरी नहीं मिली तो कंपटीशन के पास चले गए. But अब तो कंपटीशन भी नहीं लगा, because competition is also in the same boat. They also can't hire anybody. So that is no longer an option. So remote skilling, reskilling training will become very, very important. It will also lead to rising in tensions and conflicts at all levels, because when organizations and employees work in survival mode, then they start taking shortcuts. So there could be breach of contracts, regulations. Force majeure is one of the most these days searched word on Google. And then lawyers are kind of trying to automate their work so that they can operate at scale. So their business looks kind of good. Next. So till vaccine comes, we'll have to have limited contact with the older generation, and you need to rethink social gatherings. You could have probably, while digital adoption is accelerated, you could have different kind of retail options. Shadi mein abhi 50 log se zyada nahi aa sakte. Punjabi weddings, what will happen? So there will be communities with special needs. Next. Loneliness and depression may rise, and people may feel isolated, sick. They may face relationship issues. So there'll be need for specialists for remote therapy and coaching. You may see a rise in demand for pets and animal companions, and online social games are already booming. Netflix shares are up 11%. Traveling will not be the same again. Flying, social distancing, immunity passports, quarantine requirements. So, T3 ka yesterday there was a picture they were showing. So they're already preparing for, opening up. And we have Sahibjit, who's from, so Indigo is prepares, Indigo prepares to fly off. T3 will welcome now people with social distancing and other norms. Next. So what's the way forward? India has got 3 zones, red, the 130 districts, which are the worst impacted. And within red zones, there are containment zones where actually the impacted people live. And then there are orange districts and green districts. Next. So there are some activities which are prohibited nationally. So you can't travel by air, rail, metros, except for specific purposes, like their Shamik trains for migrant labor or evacuation of citizens by air will happen from overseas on 7th May. Schools, colleges, hospitality services, these are shut still. Coaching institutes, places of large public gatherings, cinema halls, malls, gyms, sports complexes, they are shut. And other gatherings are there is a ban on that. Next. There are safety measures which are applicable nationally. That is between 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. You can't move for non-essential activities. And people with 65 years, above 65, those with comorbidities, pregnant women and children below 10 have to stay at home except for essential and health purposes. And OPDs and medical clinics can function in every place except the containment zones. Containment zones may 100% Arogya Setu apps is mandatory. There will be intensified surveillance protocols. There will be contact tracing, house-to-house surveillance, quarantining of persons, and strict perimeter control. And then movement will be out for only medical emergencies and supply of essential goods. Even medical facilities within containment zones will not operate. Next, so what is allowed in red zones? So a lot of activities are actually allowed in red zones. OPDs and medical clinics are allowed, private offices with 33%. Goods traffic is allowed all across these states. And people have been told not to stop, people carrying goods, essential as well as non-essential. Neighborhood shops are allowed, but not malls. E-com is allowed only for essential goods. And construction, if you have workers staying on site, that is allowed, and renewable energy projects. So these are allowed in red zone. In orange zone, some other things are also allowed, like taxis, cab aggregators, four-wheeled vehicles, fill-in riding is allowed. So there are 284 non-hotspot districts, orange districts. So we had 130 red and 284 non-hotspots. And if we come, we have 319 non-COVID districts. So 319 green, ya to they don't have a case or they haven't had one in 21 days. And we have states like Arunachal, Manipur, etc., which don't have. And then states like Goa are doing very well. And Kerala is also kind of almost 90% free. And so a lot of activities are permitted here, but again, buses can operate with 50% capacity in bus depots, and social distancing still have to be kept in mind. So green, I have told you, 319 non-COVID districts, green districts, 130 hotspot districts, that is red districts, and 284 orange. So we have maximum green, followed by orange, and fewer red districts. But unfortunately, the big wealth generating districts are in red. Mumbai, Delhi, and all. Next. If we look at the national directives, they have been issued for public places. So face cover is mandatory, social distancing, no gathering of 5. Marriage mein you can't have more than 50 people. In funeral, not more than 20. Spitting is punishable in public places. Liquor, panwan, public place mein you can't do. But you look at the bottom right picture. This is from yesterday. जैसे ही दुकान खुली दारू की, the Delhi में rate is 70% up, but still huge queue. This type of queue was only seen in demonetization. So again, those queues are back, and people are really, I think this is one of the freedoms people are really enjoying. Next. So there are national directives for workplaces. Again, they're around face cover, social distancing, shifts के बीच में time बढ़ा दो, thermal screening, hand wash, sanitization of workplaces, Arogya Setu app, avoid large physical meetings, train your people, display the names of hospitals. If any employee is showing signs of symptoms, please put them for checkup, and quarantine area hona chahiye. So there are national directives, and so let's see how India has done so far. So far we have suppressed the curve quite well, and as the economy reopens, there are chances of reoccurrence, and jahan bhi reoccurrence hoga, there could be localized lockdowns. In US, they're predicting that there could be about 3,000 deaths by the end of the May also, after the openings. So there could be localized lockdowns. So plan accordingly. Capital will look for countries less impacted. Political zingoism will rise, all that nationalism. So anti-China backlash, reshoring, calls for resilient supply chains. But countries will have to be prepared. Money just doesn't come in. You have to create conditions. In terms of individuals, healthcare is now number 3 or 4 priority. It used to be. Now it will become number 1 priority, and there'll be acceleration in digital economy. Government stimulus. So the government, India doesn't have, we are not US, we can't print dollars. We are already at BBB minus, and if we print too much of money, then we will probably, our bonds will become junk. So in 1 week, government earns about $60-70 billion. So 10 weeks agar chala gaya, to $600-700 billion is gone, and losses could even go up to 1 trillion. So inequality and rich poor divide may sharpen. So government has to provide social security and focus on mass health, public welfare, or risk a lot of people sinking into poverty. We have to accelerate capital inflows. We have to help small and medium enterprises, stretch sectors. We have to preserve and create jobs. Next is relocation of global investments or supply chains. As I said, emotional and economic backlash can happen against China. Businesses with China-centric supply chains need to factor, insulate, and build alternatives. India should try to capture pie of the manufacturing, because globally big wealth funds and sovereign funds, they have liquidity. They are awash with liquidity. We just need to attract them. And then bureaucracy needs to do better, and exporters must build trust. Getting future ready, we have to segregate good costs. So good employees, digital transformation, these are good costs, and bad costs are fancy offices, unnecessary spending on travel, bad performers, partying. So ruthlessly, all bad costs have to be eliminated. Conserve cash. Cash is king. Top line is vanity, bottom line is sanity, cash is reality. So get future ready. Innovations, new business models and all. Next. Okay, sector-wise impact, wholesale and retail. People will buy from retailers who value safety. Online stores, e-commerce will benefit. And we need to ring fence customers and reapproach pricing. In terms of brick and mortar, cinemas, restaurants, they have been hit. And travel and tourism has been devastated. So travel related purchases have also dropped. People, when they travel, they actually buy a lot of things. And purchases that were happening abroad will now happen at home. So impact, next, impact on real estate. So this is what Mr. Deepak Parekh says. Indian real estate has huge inventory, high cost of carry. We are highly leveraged and low margins. So seeing unsold inventory as appreciating asset would be a flawed view. So market reset would be accelerated by the pandemic. Corporate real estate, co-working spaces could be hit, and we will ask the experts in the panel discussion. Businesses may look at smaller places and work from home options. We're already looking at what TCS is doing. Gold and jewelry, gold will appreciate because it's an asset in crisis times, uncertain times, risky times, gold appreciate. But jewelry is the discretionary spend, it will go down, and wedding industry can be impacted because government says that not more than 50 people can attend. There is social distrust, social distancing, cost consciousness, travel avoidance. Next. So it's not all gloomy. Mr. Ambani really got so many $1 billion. And his share prices have also gone up. JioMart 12.5%. Silver Lake Partners has already invested. So stock markets will be choppy. There will be value erosion in many industries, value creation in some of the good platform-based models, high margin businesses, low debt, they will be rewarded. New tech unicorns could come up in cloud, cybersecurity, online education, etc. There's been some depreciation in rupee. It's kind of closer to 76 rupees, but it's not as sharp as some of the emerging market currencies. And India is less battered, so liquidity could flow in. In near future, large well-governed companies with cash reserves, many of them have demonstrated good concern for employees. IT companies have stopped hiring and promotions and increments are on hold, and many companies are struggling to pay workers. Safety of employees and customers, that is health safety, physical safety is becoming a major point of focus. SMEs with thin reserves are struggling to survive, and work from home may become common because TCS is already working on a 25 by 25 strategy, 25% work from office by 2025. Next, fake news. There are other areas of concern. Fake news really travels faster and deepfakes are on the rise. So highly forwarded messages have been restricted to one by WhatsApp, and there is some fact checking going on. So this just forwarding HFM messages to one brings out the virality down by about 70%. So the need for vetted, timely, authentic, relevant, actionable intelligence has gone up. We are ourselves seeing, we are in that business. So more and more demand for, a good high quality intelligence. Cyber threats are up and demand for cyber security is up. Export of terror from Pak continues. You saw Hindwara action. COVID testing, fault tickets. Some of the fault tickets had come. So we need to get our house in order on that. And crisis has not bottomed out, but state coffers are running dry because money used to come either from petroleum. So no vehicle movement, no economic activity. So no petrol and alcohol bhi band ho gaya tha. So ये दोनों से पैसे आते थे सरकार के पास, तो अभी पैसे हैं नहीं. So what can government do? Targeted measures, and so we have to ensure, preserve and create jobs, prevent demand collapse and save people from getting into poverty. So या तो loan लोगों को कम कीजिए, you incentivize retaining workers. So firms should not be bankrupted even before the crisis ends, says Geeta Gopinath, IMF chief economist. And Jack Ma says that if you survive this year, you have already made a profit. So Japan is investing 12% of its GDP in COVID, and US has already put more than $2.2 trillion. UK and US have all provided relief for small and businesses. But I am an eternal optimist. About 83% Indians in a poll by Gallup says that they are happy with the government's handling of the crisis, and less than 50% are happy in the West. So as per a McKinsey survey, 53% of Indian entrepreneurs are optimistic compared to 25% in Japan. Mild U curve, more pain likely ahead, but this too shall pass, because when things are bad, remember, it won't always be this way. Take one day at a time. And similarly, when things are good, remember, it won't always be this way. So enjoy every great moment. So thank you very much. And now we'll move to the panel.
All right. Thank you, Colonel Sam, very much for a very comprehensive insight into the current situation. So very quickly now, as I said earlier, we have with us a very prestigious and experienced panel of experts today from various fields. So let me introduce the panel to you. First up is Rahul Agarwal, currently works as India Operations Director for Boston Consulting Group. He has 26 years of experience in corporate real estate, portfolio management, strategy, and hospitality. Welcome, Rahul. Next up, Ajit Singh Garewal, Vice President, Facilities and Projects, Interglobe Enterprises. He also has 25 plus years of experience in facilities management and operations, real estate, leasing projects, and infrastructure maintenance. Welcome, Sahibji. Also with us today, Ratna Pavan. She's a senior BCM and risk management professional. She has a significant amount of experience in financial services across risk management, service excellence, retail banking, and back office operations. Her exposure across teams at HDFC, Yes Bank, ABN AMRO, Stanchart, etc. have given her a unique and insightful understanding of the BFSI sector. Welcome, Ratna. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Also with us is Pavan Desai, co-founder and CEO of MitKat Advisory Services. He is one of the industry's leading experts in security and cyber security. He has been conferred with the Consultant of the Year award by BCI UK in 2012 and has led consulting with global organizations across Asia, Pacific, Middle East, and Africa. Welcome, Pavan. Last but not the least on our panel is Akshay Markande. Akshay is a technology entrepreneur with 2 decades of corporate and entrepreneurial experience, including a decade with Wipro. He's the founder and CEO of VersionX, a tech start which helps organizations automate processes, enhance security and efficiencies, reduce cost, and improve employee and customer experience. Welcome, Akshay.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah, great. So, Colonel Sam, I'll hand over to you and take this forward.
So very warm welcome. Can we see everyone? Rahul, can we see you?
They're visible, I think.
Yeah, very good. Good to see you. And Sahibjit, can we see you?
Yeah.
They are the most hands. Yeah. Okay, so you have seen Ratna Pawan, Pawan Desai, and Akshay Markande. So let's very quickly. So we have 5 experts. They are experts in different things. So Rahul is an expert in operations, corporate services, strategy, corporate real estate. Sahibjit also is an expert in corporate real estate facilities, and then is also his group owns the largest airlines in India. Ratna Pawan is a leading expert on business continuity. Pawan Desai will be his expert in many fields, but will be picking up his brains more on the cybersecurity in this work from home environment. And Akshay, how does this contactless technology and all this works, no touch economy? So what technologies will be future? What will people invest in? What kind of demands you're getting? So very quickly, we'll start in that order. 2 minutes, quick opening remarks, whatever you want to say. You would have huge amounts of experience across life and over last 3 months. So we'll go in that order. First Rahul, then Sahibjit, then Ratna, then Pawan Desai, and then Akshay Markande. So Rahul, all yours.
Thank you, Colonel. But in hindsight, I just realized that your presentation should have been done later and not at the starting point, because you haven't really left anything for us to speak. But anyway, having said that, I guess obviously this has been quite an unpredictable and rapidly changing environment for all of us and organizations across the globe. And I think some of the challenges that have been there is, of course, the suddenness of everything and how it has overwhelmed all of us. The difficulty in predicting our future scenarios, the rapidly changing environment, restriction in people movement, on employee morale, disruption of transportation of goods, how the supply chains have got affected across the globe. Colonel, have you touched upon it? I think lack of reliable and timely information is another factor which has affected all of us. And see, while we all had BCP, but I think, and I can, know where we had BCP to the extent that we have started working on now in terms of, something like COVID-19. Some of the journal favorites were always about fire, earthquake, and some of the other physical challenges that one used to face. So I think that's where it is. But having said that, and of course, for companies which are across different geographies, coordination has been an issue. But I think, what to my mind is now company needs to respond on multiple time scales, going from immediate to a long-term view, and I think, it obviously is how you reacted to the situation, the recession that has come into play. How do you rebound and then reimagine in terms of your business going forward? I think that is where those are my opening remarks around the entire situation. Thank you.
Thank you. We can go to Sahibjit.
Yeah, I thank you, Colonel Sam, for putting that presentation. Actually, wonderful data. And as Rahul said, you've not left anything much for us to say. But of course, there's not everything bad which we've been hearing. There is a lot which has happened good on the other side. On the flip side, we look the environment has really become good. I think with this experience, we've also learned a lot how to work from home. The myth behind work from home was a kind of always kind of thought process that really works, or it's just a holiday for somebody else. But I think people are more stressed at work from home, and it's really working well. And people who were not tech savvy has picked up the technology and started using it. I think people care has also become very important for corporates of late, not just the business wise. Of course, most of the companies are looking at how to preserve cash. But I think the leadership connects the physical being, the mental being, and also holding context from the HR perspective. That's also the other flip side of the game, which we've started feeling that HR has come into play. The businesses are thinking. We start looking at how employees have to be. You have to empathize with them. I think a lot of other things. Of course, a lot of geopolitical things are we could see indirectly there's an economic war, but there's a lot of the flip side. There are positive things that are happening, and I think one should look up to that and take new learnings from there. And probably we'll pull through this, and India will probably be on a positive side in the long run, I guess.
Wow, wow. Some optimistic notes. So Ratna?
Thank you, Colonel Sam. And from my perspective, honestly, I've spent the last 25 years in the banking and financial services industry, with the last 11 years being in, as heading business continuity and so on. So I have been managing, and I remember my experience of managing the 2008 SARS and the 2012 MERS pandemics, but obviously the novel coronavirus that has just come is unparalleled, unprecedented, and absolutely no industry was prepared for the suddenness, swiftness, and the scale at which the pandemic really came to us. So lots of learnings for everybody in the risk domain. And like I was saying a few days back, pandemic was always one of the risks that the banking and financial services risk industry really looked at. So if you were asked to, jot down our top 5 risks, at one point of time, pandemic was in the top 3, but slowly started sliding down with cyber, data protection, geopolitical risks, and so on and so forth, taking precedence, because that was what the times were at that point of time. But my God, pandemic is right up there in the first few risks that every organization now will have to factor, really. So I'm looking forward to talking further on this as we go along. But so thank you for that.
Pawan?
Yeah, good evening all. I think a lot has been said about the condition which we are in. I'm not going to reiterate the situation, but what I feel is I think it's a new normal, and it's not about COVID or non-COVID. The era post-COVID is going to be a very, very different era. So we are in a very new normal, and this normal is going to continue for a very, very long period of time. As everybody has told, there is no precedence of this. So I think anybody who talks, there is no expert, there is no non-expert on this. So I think everybody is learning as we are moving, and every day regulations are changing, things are changing. What people think will work is not working. What they didn't think will work, like work from home, people thought is a sham exercise. It will not. It is not productive. Suddenly, we are seeing work from home becoming very, very productive. So I think there are lots of positives to be taken. As the days are progressing, I am seeing a sense of optimism which is coming in the whole environment. A lot of people are saying, yes, it has happened, but it is not doomsday. I think a lot of things will improve. So I think lots of positives to take from this. And as we move ahead, we will have ups and downs. This may not be the 17th, may not be the last lockdown, or we may have multiple phases or multiple U or W turns. But yes, things will look positive as we go ahead. Yes, we'll have to do lots of changes in the way we live, we do our businesses. But yes, I can see some optimism going ahead in this. Thank you.
Akshay?
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everyone. From my side, I think most of the points are covered. I think some of the things that I would just highlight, maybe what I don't feel would work in long run is work from home. I believe that a lot of people feel that work from home works right now, but it's also because you can't go out. So everybody's inside and working. I think the fun will start when you can go out, and then we'll see how much people would be willing to work from home effectively. So I think that's left for the days to decide. So that being said, I think rest more or less, I feel it's a great opportunity for tech innovative companies to come forward with solutions. I think technology enables to solve problems. I think now if people won't adapt or people won't look opportunities in the crisis, and of course they won't gain from it. But I believe there are a lot of opportunities for new tech initiatives, and also to do something with remote accessing and working remotely. I think those options would definitely be on rise, I believe. So good opportunity, I believe, for tech companies, and for the rest has to be seen with time, I guess. That's from my side.
Rahul, I'll come back to you. So impact on corporations and corporate real estate. Some people are saying, corporate real estate will kind of grow down in stature, or so Rahul? So what do you think will be the impact on the operations and corporate real estate?
I think there's, and again, there are real estate experts who've been talking about it. This is my personal view. I think a lot of it is also a knee-jerk reaction, which is immediately coming in, given that we have all been under lockdown for the last 6+ weeks. And of course, there are social distancing norms. So a lot of organizations have started talking about. And again, if you look at the entire spectrum, there are organizations who are talking about, reducing of their space, given that work from home has been successful. And as Akshay very well said, that this is obviously today's scenario and long term, given the human connect that we want. All of us are social animals. It'll be interesting to see as to how people react, when things start opening up. On the other hand, there have been also companies which are saying that, how do I increase my footprint, because I still need my people to come into the offices, yet I'm supposed to maintain social distancing norms. So I think it's going to be, if I can talk about my own organization, while we are working on our social distancing norms and some of the other measures that we are undertaking, but I think it's more wait and watch in terms of how things evolve in the coming months, not really just for the next few weeks. I also think that there is going to be co-working spaces wherever people want to move away from their regular offices and just want to pick up few seats now. They would probably so the co-working spaces may have a good growth for them, while they also will have to plan out for social distancing norms and how they're able to ensure that they're able to provide safe and secure environment for people to work in, because one of the biggest challenges on co-working has always been cybersecurity, and how do you ensure that your data is not being floating around. So I think if they're able to take care of that and the social distancing norms and the safety aspect of it, yes, they have an opportunity over there. But for us, as of now, it is wait and watch.
So thank you. So Sahibjit, now coming to facilities admin. So what do you think is going to be the impact on the facilities and admin? The roles are completely getting redefined. You're being asked to take temperatures of people, do social distancing, do a whole lot of other things. So how will the facility function evolve? And then will you have problem of people, because people are all going away? So will you have problem in facilities, security, all these things?
I think the preparedness has to be a little different now. The work of admin will probably increase a bit, because with this social distancing norm, as Rahul said, we will have a little more work. We'll have to plan it better for the people to sit in the office, even while they walk up to the elevators or they walk up to the cafeteria for the lunch. Everything has to be monitored. How do they get into the basement and park their cars if the distance is maintained? There's a little bit of a work increase for the admin team. But I think with a lot of WhatsApp messages floating around, people are educated, and that's going to really help us on that. And of course, there's a little bit of a cost going to incur on sanitization of office. So everything is not saving cost here. We will have to invest for safety of employees. And there's a lot of PPE kits and other things which will fall in place, and we will eventually probably spend a little more on the housekeeping and sanitization. I think that's where.
So what, Sajid, what do you do with the 3,980 regulations which has come into place? Till yesterday evening, my team tells me, I asked them, kitne hain? Bola, sir, 3,980 we have recorded, and there could be those we have missed out, which our engine has not picked up.
I don't have much about it. I can't really comment too much about that.
No, that was on a lighter note. So maybe Ratna, so come back. Ratna, coming to you. So how do you work through the pandemic? You are the BCP expert, 25 years. So what do we do about this?
So
how do we work through the pandemic? Yeah.
Okay. Now, Sam, what really happened is, let me just talk through a little bit about what happened in March when two simultaneous events happened. One is that the lockdown got announced very suddenly. And secondly, for the banking and financial services, offshore operations countries, almost all of them simultaneously went on lockdown, whether it was India, China, Malaysia, Philippines, and so on, right? So irrespective of the maturity of the business continuity that these organizations had, they had only one option left at that point of time and for the continuity of their operations, and that was to work from home. So a very interesting and hectic flurry of activities followed after that, which is ensuring that laptops, and in certain cases I'm aware even desktops had to be transported to employee homes. Organizations had to enhance their internal VPN bandwidth for all of them to be able to log in from their homes. A lot of policy and procedural level changes had to be made. Applications had to be kind of permitted. An uneasy acceptance on cyber and information and data security risk had to be taken, and that continues as people start, work from home for 45 days now. A lot of vendor and third parties kind of came into the picture because you had to ascertain that they were able to kind of continue their operations. As we speak, there is an uneasy BAU in place right now of a new kind, and while the organizations are working on ensuring that the gradual back to work policy and procedure is being drafted, because while the lockdown kind of got announced kind of very suddenly and everything had to happen overnight to enable work from home, the work back to office is going to happen a lot more gradually, because 100% will not come back. It's going to start from 20% onwards, and I'm aware a few organizations and essential services have already started. So organizations are now busy going to be doing all of that and more.
So thank you, Ratna. Pawan, Pawan Desai, I know that you've been invited about in last 30 days probably 32 times to speak on the cybersecurity concerns. That accompanies work from home. So what is your advice to people? What to do in this work from home scenario? How severe is the problem, and what do you do about it?
I think, Pawan, you're probably on mute.
Pawan, you're not audible.
Jatin, can you unmute Pawan, please? Jatin, can you unmute Pawan?
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're audible now.
Yes.
Thanks,
Jatin.
I was sorry, I could not unmute myself. I think it's a very interesting times. I think we are in terms of cybersecurity. I think we are moving into a very borderless security models, which were unheard of. Because yes, we were talking about work from home, BYOD, but it was only one device, maybe one laptop or one phone, which was used by employees. But what is happening with sudden flurry of almost 85 to 90% employees working from home? There has been a spike, I think, on the cyber security side. It has been I think, carnage, I'll say. There have been spikes on phishing, malwares, ransomwares. There has been the detection mechanism has been delayed, and I think the attackers are thriving in this current scenario. If you see the real challenges which exist in the cyberspace today, the 85+% people are working from home. The responses are delayed. The security teams are not in place. They cannot give coordinated responses. The perimeters of most of the organizations are exposed because they cannot control beyond a point. And most of the cyber criminals are also, the IT security guys and cyber security specialists are also feeling themselves jobless. So just crossing a line may not be a bad idea to make quick money. So I think this is a dangerous scenario in which we are living. What I feel, where do we go from here? I think now people will demand, because they have seen the benefit of they can work from their laptop, their daughter's laptop, their phones, their iPads. They will think this is given. So I think it is going to be a challenging from a cybersecurity teams to make them work anywhere and everywhere is going to be a new normal. Also, the coverage has to be seamless, because as of now we are only protecting what we can cover. I think we'll have to move towards the next level. So if I just quickly point out the cybersecurity challenges, I beg to differ from Akshay. The work from outside is going to be a new normal, because technologically you will have to prepare. A person works 2 days in office and 3 days or 4 days in office in home is a different thing. But technologically you have to prepare everybody to work from home. So that is going to happen. Also, the evolution of BYOD, which is bring your own device, the revolution 2.0 have to come, because it has to be multiple versions, multiple people, multiple requests. That is going to come. And the biggest challenge is going to come on the compliance and governance. How do you create compliances? How do you govern that person who is having the data is not sharing the data with somebody else. Today, in your office environment, you can do that. But when a person is sitting at home, sitting at a cyber cafe, sitting, I don't know where, how do you control that? And top it up, the privacy and the regulatory issues are also going to be coming. We have not worried about those things, the compliance, governance, privacy, and regulation yet, because we are fighting another battle. But I think days as we'll go, I think these issues will start popping up, and we will start thinking about regulations. So regulations are going to drastically change. The legal norms, the regulations are going to change. So it is going to be a new normal. Most of us do not know how the things are going to be. So that's my 2 penny bit on this.
Akshay, how does the technology landscape look like, and how will it shape up and evolve?
Yeah, I think there's a lot happening on the technology side too, and of course these are all works in progress, and some of the old stuff is also getting reused now because of the situations, which was good to have is becoming must-haves. So just to give you some understanding on those aspects, so what I believe, see, most of the things that are happening around COVID is about, so I would call it physical distancing, not so much social distancing, probably because we need to have physical distance, not just from people, but also from objects. Now, since we know that COVID lives on surfaces also for a longer duration. So the object should be that we should have a contactless, reduce contacts or increase distance between people and things. So that is the approach that we are taking in technology as well. So for example, hot desk is one technology that you will see. Instead of, people will have to book their desk before they go to jobs. By that, you could actually curtail the amount of people who are sitting in a premise. So you can't really force people to, sit, but you have to organize that from a more hot desk kind of a technology. BYOD, of course, will become more normal. People will start using their own devices because you don't have to use somebody else's or touch something else. VPNs will come to the front. Work from home, I think we will leave it for later to see how it pans out. So that being that, I think cloud also, from earlier it was more, a lot of people were having issues in terms of cloud relative initiatives. People preferred an on-premise infrastructure and stuff like that. I think now because of this whole thing, I think cloud is also becoming normal. People are more open to cloud initiatives. I think that's something that would, of course, become more normal as we go along. Fingerprints, from biometric standpoint, fingerprints will definitely go out. That won't remain now. So most of the things will move to facial recognition, palms, mobile Bluetooth-based entry and recognitions. So that you will see pretty commonly being adopted. A lot of sensor-based stuff will. We also know that the virus also remains in airborne particles and all. So the quality of air, sensor-based quality check on the air would also become very, very important. And then there'll be a whole lot of hardware and software to manage these kind of, heavy lifting and, optimized work environments, because most of our offices are also closed. They're not, the ventilation is not good. So we'll have to do a lot of stuff from that perspective as well. So you'll see a lot of sensor and hardware and software playing a role in this side. Entry barriers will of course become important, because if we need to do a contactless entry, we need to have barriers. Barrier does two parts. Basically, it enables contactless entry and also enforce. So not like how we keep talking about keeping a distance between two or number of individuals. It's impossible to ask people to maintain it. I think technology can easily do this. So we can have turnstile which will, let's say, not flip open for about 30 seconds. So when people are going back to back, it won't allow. So automatically things like that will come into hardware play, by which you can restrict a lot of movements of people and reduce the flow of people as well. Of course, paperless, which we were used to be thinking it's good to have paperless, is becoming now must have, because again we know the corona or viruses like that can live on paper for days together. So no unnecessary paper movement would be required. People could do most of the approvals and most of the to their own devices, take approvals on the emails and stuff like that. I think that you will see quite a lot. Visitor batching will happen. Instead of getting 10 visitors randomly, you would probably say, fine, 2 visitors every hour. So you spread it over across a day. So those kind of initiatives you'll see in technology quite a lot. Privacy, of course, for now, I think it is at stake, because now everybody's doing thermal, using facial, using all kind of technologies to track who's coming and going and all that. Of course, the privacy is out of window for now. But I believe that as technology will mature, government will also put some policies in place to streamline all of these things. And I also believe that this is not the end of it. So whatever we learn from this and whatever technologies and stuff we adopt, it is also to make ourselves also ready for the next event if it happens. How quickly can we, cope up or not bring our economies down, and we can work. in a more efficient manner. So that is how I feel
Thanks,
this whole thing.
Akshay. Yeah, thank you very much, Akshay. So what we'll do is, while Hima ma'am, if in a couple of minutes we'll open it for questions. But I just want to put a question to the panel: how things will pan out over the next few months, maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. What are the to-dos, not to-dos, and how do we get back to BAU for the new normal? So can we have somebody, maybe Sahibjeet, and then anyone else who wants to come in?
Yes, Colonel Sam, I think precaution, safety is going to be the prime at the level, because a lot of companies, as Ratna said, are working on the preparedness of the manual floating across. We are also pushing visitors not allowed in office for next couple of months. We would prefer to do bridge calls or video calls with them. We need to ensure that our revenues start moving in. Of course, with airlines not moving in, with the hotels and the restaurant and entertainment not working in, a lot of things have to be thought through. A lot of innovation will happen, of course, across the industry. And this will take about another 6 months to become as a normal, because new normal has to be accepted and disciplined later on. You can't really think of walking along the road and just be the way we were earlier. We'll have to start thinking and practicing it. And once that it's imbibed, I think we will start living with it. And of course, lockdown is not the solution, as we all know finally, but it may come and go depending on the zones we are in. And the business as usual is that all the companies are preserving cash, and they'll start thinking through innovation, and they'll start working. Somebody just said that couple of IT companies, you only made it in your presentation, that IT companies will probably start working from 25% from home. What happens on the business perspective on real estate, any company who still has 75% will probably need more space as a social distance. If they were working for 100 square feet, they'll probably then hire 125. So real estate will not lose in a long run on commercial real estate. I think on the perspective of retail, we would probably have a hit for another 10 months. So I think business will, there are issues of pandemic, and there will be business upsides and upswing on the other side also. So there are benefits and negatives all sides, and business will roll back, I guess. The swing will come back.
So anyone else wants to come in on that? Thanks, Sahib. And Rahul or
Ratna wants to. Jatin.
Yeah.
Yes, Colonel Sam, what I really see coming up is a whole new era called, the post-COVID era, right? And in that, from the banking and financial services industry specific, at least I can say, and I see a few changes. One is that, and some of my panelists spoke about it, but I do see a lot of work from home in that, right? Maybe not as aggressive as TCS, which said that 75% of their employees will work from home by 2025, but I definitely see about 30 or 40% of them working from home, because post-COVID, what's also going to happen is a lot of focus will come back on costs and efficiency saves, right? And work from home will mean a lot of real estate saves. So I see work from home as a new reality in the near and medium term future. A lot of automation, robotics, machine learning will take, will come back into focus, because a lot of innovation and automation will be involved. Digital banking will come back. I don't see people going back to bank branches very much in a hurry, which means a lot of wallets and digital banking will come back into focus. A lot of relaxing will happen on the regulatory norms when we had to go back to working from home. The DOT and STPI and all of that had to give their approvals to let people start working from home. So I see some bit of permanent relaxations happening there, so that as a new norm, people can start working from home. As we are seeing now, a lot of these seminars and trainings and learnings and so on and so forth will move to the online, which means that we are here to stay in the virtual world for quite some time to come. So from a near-term perspective, Colonel Sam, I do see that we will definitely see and be able to talk about a new world, which will be before COVID and after COVID.
So thank you very much. So now we can open the question to the audience. So Hima ma'am, do we have any questions, or anyone wants to come in to questions? House is open for next 5 minutes for questions.
Yes. Do we have any questions here? And
Hema, I can see some questions which have been put on the chat.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just looking through the.
Yeah, Hema, you probably have to pick questions from the chat, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the
Yeah.
questions asked is how much literacy in India to required to get adopted to automation and robotic banking in India? I think this is for you, Ratna.
It's more than the literacy, really. Automation and robotic banking in India is honestly, it was something that was already being pursued, and I see that now COVID is only going to accelerate those initiatives. So more than the literacy, I think what the whole banking fraternity, all employees will have to go through is a learning curve. I think what Colonel Sam rightly covered is that after this we can see a lot of layoffs, really, but those layoffs will be more towards people who are doing a lot of manual and transaction specific roles. Hence, I think the primary objective of employees right now will be to ensure that they can reskill themselves, make themselves more relevant to the new environment, and making themselves relevant will mean that they will have to get themselves a lot more educated and start understanding the whole digital and automation world. That's as far as the employees within the organization are concerned. For the world outside, it's a completely smartphone dominated industry right now, with almost 80% of the people across having smartphones, and they understand a little bit of everything that really works. China is today on almost 100% digitalization, and I don't see India being very far behind if there's a right push and right motivation.
So I can see a lot of other questions which are being written. Hima ma'am, can you
There
quickly read
are a
out?
lot of questions. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So quickly,
so very
just
quickly, do you think that existing office spaces will restructure their seating and interiors to comply with COVID norms? Will social distancing come into office planning of office spaces?
Rahul.
Or, so I don't think there's a choice, just from a purely safety perspective, and also from a regulatory perspective, that is something that is expected. And I think if I talk about employee of today, they're very, very informed, right? So I think any organization which is not following these norms, the employees are not going to accept it. And, there would be challenges in getting employees to the office without adhering to these norms. So, and I think offices would be ready to undertake such expenses. A majority of them. I can't speak for all, but majority, yes.
So it is not only regulatory, it's also a duty of care kind of obligation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Hima ma'am, next question.
How many BYOD resources here work with genuine operating systems or security systems?
Pawan?
Yeah, I'll take it. Okay. So yes, in current situation, because they were not meant, BYOD was only few devices of employees which were registered with the organizations. So all those had genuine OS and antiviruses, but the threat was not so much coming from that devices in the current. But in current situation, things have drastically changed. So I think the regulations are going to change. The companies are going to take stricter norms. So if we have to connect to any of the newer devices, either company will be spending additional on providing a genuine antivirus, or at least certain basic controls like antivirus, anti-malware systems will have to become, or there will be a mandated to employees that if they are going to connect to corporate network, then all the BYOD which they want to connect will have to have at least the OS. Currently, that is not the norm. Yes, I can get your question, but yes, things are going to change very soon on that.
Okay, the next one very quickly is with companies like TCS adopting 25/25. Why would SEZ or STPI give tax or duty benefits for work done by employees while working from home?
Yeah, who wants to take it?
That's a very
Rahul.
tough one to answer,
Yeah,
really, So I think that's something that the NASSCOM will have to lobby with the regulatory agency as such, because it's a catch-22, really. You want both.
Right.
So, yeah, other questions? I saw
Sandeep Mishra wanted to come in with a question. Sandeep, would you like to ask your question? Sandeep, you can come in with your question.
Sandeep will have to be unmuted, or you can.
Okay, in the meanwhile then, how will the sorry, Sandeep?
Are you there? Okay, so you can read out if there is.
Yeah, so how will reverse migration, which has just begun, keep away from the work state Keep them away from their work states and cities with the reverse migration happening.
Yeah. So once the labor goes away, so
Yeah.
the question is, once the labor goes away, it's very, very difficult to get that labor back, and these are labor, if say, let's say the manufacturing company, if a labor works in, let's say, building automotive company, once they go back, abhi dekha hoga, all people want to go back to homes. There are a lot of Shramik trains which are being kind of run. And this was also a harvest season. So a lot of people, and some people just want to go back home. They've been away for too long. They're afraid, they don't see a future in the cities. So what will be the impact, is that what Sandeep you're asking or anything else?
No, that was not from Sandeep. That was another question. I was just waiting. I
Okay.
think Sandeep didn't ask his question. But
so anyone wants to take this question? What will be the impact of labor and?
So, I can take a shot at this. Again,
Yeah,
this is my
sure.
personal opinion. So I'll take a cynical view of this, Colonel. Yes, short term, in the next few months, it is going to definitely affect all the activities that are happening, especially on the manufacturing side, especially construction will get affected. But I think the sheer fact that the entire migrant population moved away from their respective homes to outside was to find bread and butter for themselves. Once they go back and they continue to go back and remain at home for the next few months, the reality is going to hit because, while the governments are supporting today, given the unprecedented situation, the support cannot continue forever. And in the next 3 to 6 months, probably less than that, when reality at home, people will have to start coming back and start picking up jobs what they were earlier doing because there is not enough work back home also.
So there was another question. I think it came from Colonel Prabhakar. Is China pushing its currency towards yuan, and not accepting dollar?
yeah,
So again, so I had put this question actually to a guy who is a financial expert because I'm no expert on finance. And his opinion was that probably it will just be a case of initially testing. China may try at a small provincial level in one or two, three provinces. It will kind of start its digital currency and all. But the way, global things are dominated in currently, we don't see it happening immediately, but probably more of a mid to long term. So maybe 3 to 5 years and longer, and not something happening immediately. So that was his opinion. I'm no expert, but if somebody wants to take it on, it's most welcome. Any other questions?
in multi-tenanted buildings where 3 or 4 companies operate, how is admin and facilities going to be impacted? How will they operate?
So Rahul or Sahib?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't get this.
How would admin and facilities which operate in multi-tenanted buildings, where there are 3 to 4 companies, how will they operate? How will admin and facilities operate in these multi-tenanted buildings?
See, in multi-tenant buildings, if the admin is operating through an IPC, which is International Property Consultants, the only challenge which comes in if these lockdowns come and go, there is a lot of cost on the common area maintenance that gets enhanced if the people are not operating from the building. So that's a loss for the organization who owns the building. Because at 100% occupancy, your cost is always lesser. But it is not a challenge because the buildings which are being operated, all the clients get a preparedness document. That this is a common document which is followed for the building, and internally they have to manage their own issues. I don't see any challenge, but of course there will be a lot of challenge in terms of office goers is not a big issue, but when it comes to the food supply vendors and courier boys and visitors coming in building, for at least another 6 months, there will be a lot of safety measures and precautions which have to be taken care for these kind of buildings.
Right. Thanks. Another question, Colonel Sam, you had already talked about this anti-China sentiment post-COVID, and Taiwan and Vietnam making, taking advantage of the global supply. So the question here is, with the distrust in China during post-COVID, is it a great opportunity for India to step in and step up? And if so, what can we do and how should we do it?
So very quickly, it is 2-3 aspects. I have got some data on that. Since August 2018, 56 companies have moved out of China. So trade wars were going on. Companies were already relocating. So 11 have gone to Taiwan and 18 to Vietnam. So out of 56 companies, 29 have gone to these two countries, 2 to Indonesia, 8 to Thailand, 3 have come to India. So again, we have not done particularly well there. So if we have to do, as per Mr. Deepak Parekh, who is an expert, and some other experts in the field, 2-3 things need to be done. Firstly, we'll have to get the basic infrastructure in place. So some places are basic physical infrastructure as well as the digital infrastructure. So firstly, we will have to get the basic infrastructure in place. 2 is then our bureaucracy makes the policies very, very cumbersome. So we'll have to simplify the process. Like in Vietnam, one guy deals with all your clearances once you come in. So we'll have to have probably single window clearances and much of policy consistencies, because we have almost 3 times policy changes sometimes in a year. So much more. And third is our exporters will have to build trust. We'll have to kind of under promise and over deliver. So all kinds of things, a good policy environment, a consistent policy environment will probably, political stability is there. So land and labor are very, very emotive issues. They are prone to political exploitation. So center and states will have to get their act together on that. So just these major issues. So and anyone else wants to take anything?
Yes, one very quick question for Pawan. What kind of control measures should the banking sector put in for data privacy in the near future?
I think it's a great question. The data privacy, I think regulations, it all depends on how long this thing is going to last. So as we see, the new normal is going to be the work from home environment, which everybody is thinking is going to continue. Then I think because the current laws and regulations are not, and the controls are not around free flowing of data. I think so that is going to be the biggest. So it has to be a revamp of the entire privacy policy which we currently have and the way we are sharing the data. So everything will have to change. So I think we'll have to wait and watch for time being, because currently we are in a more a pandemic situation. So a lot of relaxations have been given. But once the thing normalizes, the regulations will start changing, and we will see lots of new regulations coming in terms of work from home, what can be done, what cannot be done, what processes can be accessed, what cannot be accessed. It is not going to be a blanket sanctions for everything to happen as it was previously. So I think we'll have to wait and watch on that thing. A lot of discussions are happening, but nobody knows which direction the things are going, because nobody knows how big this problem and how long is this going to continue.
So if no other questions, then I think it's a good time. We are already, I think, running short of time.
Just yes, we do have a whole lot of questions, but I think we're running out of time.
Yeah. So very quickly, just let me thank all my co-panelists, Rahul, Sahibjeet, Akshay, Pawan, Ratna Pawan. So fascinating insights, and just very quickly recapitulate. We are in unprecedented situation, twin shocks, the public health damage, and the entire economy which has gone for a toss. So Corona jaane wala nahi hai. We have to learn to live with Corona. So till the time vaccine comes up, we have to live with it. We have to live in an intense regulatory overdrive environment. Facility, admin, corporate real estate people, security, all of us have risen to the job. There will be new cybersecurity challenges, BYOD 2.0, new regulations, governance, compliance changes, new touch economies, contactless, VPNs, mass adoption of cloud, visitors not so welcome. So in this whole technological, legal, social, economic, this paradigm, we'll have to learn to live with Corona. Jaane wala nahi hai, and we have to learn to live with Corona. So thank you very much. It has been fascinating to take a session and an honor to moderate this panel. So over to you, Hima, and big thank you to GACS from all of us at MitKat.
Thank you, Colonel Sam, and thank you all panelists, Rahul, Sahibjeet, Pawan, Ratna, Akshay. Thanks very much, all of you, for being here.
And over to Dr. Kirti now, ma'am.
Over to Dr. Kirti now, yes.
Good evening. This is Dr. Kirti Sharma, driving regulatory and compliance at GACS, and on behalf of GACS, thank you so much, everyone, for your valuable time today, and wish you all and all your family members a very good health. Now is the time to launch our GACS booklet, which is guidelines for execution of transport operations in the new normal. Mr. Pervez from GACS School of Excellence has put his part here. Mr. CP Singh from Smart 24/7 one of the top-notch industry leaders in automating the facility management and transportation, has been inspiration behind this booklet. Also, Smart 27 by 24 by 7 has been our technology partner since inception. So over to you, Mr. CP Singh. Thank you so much. Please take this forward. Thank you.
Dr. Kirti, it has been honored to basically be part of this writing of this document with Pervez. Just a quick recap I would like to do that what all went into basically doing this. So we did the study, we followed the guidelines of all the MHA, FICCI, CII, and all the associations basically. We went through the guidelines, and then basically we filtered all the things that are very much specific to the transport operations, be it employee transport services or spot rental or any third party commute basically. We basically did that study and then came out with a thorough checklist that needs to be implemented to ensure that the compliances which is requested by the government to open up any company, corporate or industry, we should be able to adhere to them basically. So that's how we went into that. And then also basically there are several red zones and green and orange zones which will get created in this scenario basically. So we need to avoid the red zones, and then if in case basically there are any employees who are get into red zone, so their quarantine and has to be done. As you know, transport is a very complex operation because most of the companies have outsourced this operation of running the cabs to the third party vendor, and hence basically it is very much important that the compliances which have been requested by the government of India need to be followed to the last dot basically. So the routing has to be created in a very proper way. The checklist which the cabs have to undergo, the driver's checklist basically related to COVID-19 is what we have basically put into this in this document. And the same changes, the recommendations that have been given in this document have been put into our platform also. So we run an automation platform, transport automation platform. So that document is also, so our platform is also now COVID-19 compatible is what we say, which means that there are thorough checklists and which have been put into all the mobile application which is being used by the driver, by the employee and by the supervisors who are basically managing the entire show basically. And also because there are a lot of checklists which the government has asked for. So what we have done is basically at every point we have basically created a checklist, and also in our platform we have integrated that the documentation can be recorded either as an image or a video onto the platform, and hence basically the reports which needs to be submitted to the government of India for the compliances gets documented automatically with the automation taking in place. Most important part is that the data which is getting captured is decentralized. So there are certain things which a driver has to do, which the supervisor has to do, which the transport team has to do. All those checklists are getting maintained in a decentralized way, and there is a maker and a checker which needs to be introduced. Either the company is doing a manual operation or an automated operation. Both are getting taken care over there. So that's how basically we are developing and we are evolving the solutions. Basis that the entire focus is on the IoT platform, basically which we have, which runs several checklists. It integrates into the visitor management system. It integrates into the energy management system and a lot of other management system which will get integrated to ensure that the compliances which the government of India has requested, to ensure the business continuity, ensure that the compliances are getting met. That's going to happen through this thing. So I would now request Pervez to basically say a few words, and then basically we can launch this white paper.
Yes, CP, thank you so much for giving the insight about the document. And on behalf of School of Excellence, I just want to say thanks to you for coming up with this document, and it's very informative document. So I will request everyone to go on GACS website and log in, and you will find this document there. Now I will hand over this thing to Kirti sir back.
Okay, thank you, Pervez. Uh, sorry, Kirti, please go ahead. Kirti sir. Okay, so I think this is, I will just quickly take you through the entire document. This is about how prepared we are basically. So all of you can see in your screens that there is a schedule which has been set, which takes care of formation of task force, preparing of SOPs, the entire operations, how they are going to get monitored with all the compliances, and then there are central command which review all the compliances, and we have to record all the documentation which has got created and then submit the reports to the government of India, or basically to the KPI data to be submitted to the US principals, basically accordingly, US or anyone outside. So this is a typical central command where facility, transport, medical, and workforce enablers are basically being shown over here. And so it's a long drawn process basically, which means that once you create the SOPs, then basically the verifications of the SOPs will happen, and then basically slowly you will ramp up your capacity. And in case there is any eventuality or basically any case, then basically you have to slow down your ramp up process and then take it in a step by step manner basically. So there are several checklists that we have created. I'm just going through them because so this one is important, where you require to basically have the checklist for all your driver, your cabs, your supervisors, your transport team, your roster and routing, and other SOPs basically. Very importantly, the disinfection spray of on every second day, sanitization of every touch area, which is handles, steering, and seats, basically has to be done. Then hand sanitizers and extra mask for the guest has to be provided within the vehicle basically itself. Every driver has to take a self-assessment test of COVID-19, which is a very basic test. It gets done. I hope everyone has a Arogya Setu app, and it's very easy to take that. It's the same test which basically people will take and ensure that they are safe over there. And washing of hands, and the driver does not need to be overworked, and basically there has to be at least a 1 hour break between any back-to-back trip basically over there. So so we have created these SOPs. These are very much standard and not difficult to get implemented. It's only that we need to train our drivers and workforce supervisors and the transporters to ensure that they are basically adhering to these things. From a banking and financial transaction, every transporter should be encouraged to basically go online for payment, submitting of invoices. The idea is to get into as much as contactless transaction as much as possible over there. In terms of dealing with agencies, most of the government agencies have started issuing the online passes, permits, filing of the tax, road tax, and all those things basically. So more and more government departments are going to open up, and then basically we should encourage everyone to use the online medium and avoid any kind of physical contact basically. Of course, there has to be a medical facility for the workforce, including the transport, because they are the most vulnerable to catch the COVID-19, because they are the ones who are meeting a lot of people in and around, and they are going through several zones which are marked as orange, red, green, so like that. So a medical facility or a virtual facility should be present, where anyone who has any doubt or any query basically should be answered by the doctor himself basically. Last but not the least, there has to be an isolation facility for whether it is created by the corporate or by the developer, it has to be looked into. But because we are in a phase where the second wave is expected to come, so self-isolation facility within the facility has to be there basically. Of course, every company has their own KPIs to measure the success of the COVID-19 war, basically. So, depending upon the KPIs that have been requested by the management and the government agencies, basically, you need to file those things on a regular basis, and recording of the information is very, very much important. So try using the automation technologies over there. Definitely the employees should be encouraged to stay home, but we have to open up our offices and basically bring the workforce to the office also. It has to be done in a gradual way, basically. Just a note about smart platform, that we are into transport management system, security management system, and facility management system. We are a 100% mobile based platform, and we help facilities to manage their entire show digitally, basically. That's how. And then of course, School of Excellence, it's a new initiative of GACS, and basically a lot of traction towards this. Yeah. Right. Thank you very much. Dr. Kirti, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think I'll ask Mr. I.P. Singh Gujral to just close it. Mr. Gujral, are you there?
Okay, I'm here actually. Thanks everyone, and thanks from the GACS leadership team to Colonel Sam for a wonderful presentation and coordinating this session. As in listener and as in part of the leadership team, I would like to thank our eminent panel from the heart of the core of the heart for such a fantastic discussion and sharing thoughts about the new normal and what we can expect in the near future. I think this is the well-timed topic, and your valuable inputs will help us navigate further. As a leaders, we have been enthusiastic to listen that you have been very optimistic about the future, though with some changes. There are great opportunities for tech companies, and I'm very, very heartful to hear that we have to invest in the safety of employees and customers. So I think it was a wonderful session for all of us. A lot of takeaways to go with and then implement. And a great thanks to everyone for the participation and being with us for an hour. Thank you very much.